Postgame show. Terry Ford, appreciate you hanging out as we do our little dance. We got a full show today. Dave, by the way, it's 100 million degrees in this room.
It's not my fault.
What are you doing in here? This is like the creepy sauna at the gym where the old naked guy comes and sits next to you.
Cold. You should know that. You're old.
Well, obviously, my blood's in better shape than yours because I'm already sweating to death in here. Please leave that open for the love of God. Leave the door open. Wow, Dave. Woo! What is it in here? 77 in this room. Or is it 177? Wow. Anyway, where was I? I don't remember.
Gunners is 81.
God. Well, Bill's got health stuff. He's not as healthy as you, Dave.
Yeah. Poor guy.
Anyway, where was I as I unpacked my big backpack as I getting into our radio show today? Appreciate you being here. We got a full show today. Tomorrow, baseball, we will not have a show, but a full show today. Quick update real fast before we get moving into the world of sports, which, look, we love it. We talk about it. It's important to us fools who love sports. But there's also this thing called real life, which is much more important than the little playground fantasy world that we live in here. Our buddy Jay Phillips has had his surgery. So far, everything has gone very well. Knock on wood. And Jay is recovering. We will have him back probably in a couple of weeks, but everything so far so good. So we will try to keep you updated on what's going on with Jay, but all things being considered and what Jay's going through the surgery and the things of that nature, yeah, he's a little sore, obviously, a little pain. But overall, from what Mrs. Phillips has told me, all being considered what Jay's going through, things are going okay so far in the early stages of what is happening with Jay. So just want to give you a heads up on that. And we will keep you informed as much as we can on what's going on with Jay. But again, so far, so good. All right, baseball last night. Look, it's Gardner-Webb. It's midweek. You're not doing backflips over things. It's just like, fair or not, you got to win these games. You just do. And last year, look, South Carolina, things did not go well at all. Matter of fact, last year was massively disappointing on historic levels, right? But at the end of the day, South Carolina didn't win all their midweek games, if my memory serves me. Doesn't make up for the disaster of a season it was, but, to be fair and be objective, the midweek went well. And so far this year, the midweek has gone well. And when you run rule, it's a good night, no matter who it is. So South Carolina gets the run rule 12-2 over Gardner-Webb. And again, no one's saying, whoa, watch out, Omaha, here comes South Carolina. But you handled your business the way you need to, and that was finishing that thing up in the 8th inning, 12-2, 17 hits. I believe also how many walks? 4 walks. I think it was a hit by pitch. So you're roughly 22 base runners, which is really good. And this is what you do to a team you're a lot better than. You pretty much put them in their place. 5 pitchers combined to only give up 2 runs. You had offense. Obviously, we kind of focused on Will Craddock, the freshman from Anderson, South Carolina, went 3 for 3, reached base 5 times. Again, it's Gardner-Webb, but you want to see a young guy with a lot of ability like Craddock go out there and get a nice taste and be successful when he gets his nice taste. And real quick, let's grab it while we're thinking about it. We'll get Coach Maneri talking post-game about Will Craddock's debut.
I just love me some Will Craddock, to be honest with you. He's been such a fun kid to be around and to coach. And from the day he arrived on campus in the summer even, when he was here in the summer, just a great kid. He's always smiling. He's just so pleasant to be around. And he don't let that smile and that pretty face fool you, though. He's a tiger. I mean, he's a competitor, and he wants to get in there. And he's more than held his own in scrimmage games in the fall as well as in the preseason here. I think the thing I'm most proud about him tonight was how he hung in there with 2 strikes all the time. He drew a walk there at the end. I think he hit that triple, if I'm not mistaken, with 2 strikes on him. So he's starting to recognize pitches a little bit better, the off-speed pitches. But listen, he impacts the ball. He impacts the game. He's going to be I've been telling you this from day one. He's going to be a special player here. And the more he plays, the better he's going to get. He's not going to be perfect. He's not going to reach base 5 times every game. But trust me, he's going to have some days where, the game looks a little, Greek to him. But he's going to continue to get better. There's no question in my mind about it. He's got all the qualities. I've been around a lot of great players in my coaching career, and I think Will's got a chance to be a really, really outstanding one. Just got to figure out where to play him. We got to make sure we got to find a way to get him into the lineup because he makes an impact on the ball game.
I mean, last night, I got some exit velocities around 108, 110 miles an hour on his knocks. A lot of people really like him and like his ability and his upside. And like, Coach Maneri said, you got to find a position for him. And look, all you can do is put him out there and let him play. Go through the ups and downs of a freshman year. And you just kind of roll with it. Ethan Petrie was really good, obviously, his freshman year. Petrie was really good his first 2 seasons, and things, again, a combination of stuff was not as good in his junior year as he was the first 2. But still, Ethan Petrie, brought it from day one. And this young fella, Craddock, is built sort of like Petrie. Big guy. And the ball comes off his bat. It's just different. And I remember, and I'm not comparing him to this player, but I just remember, again, Manny Machado, now with the San Diego Padres, perennial has been an all-star many times, started his career with the Orioles. And I remember talking to guys who covered the team, and Machado was a big-time prospect. And there were guys in spring training going, dude, the ball just sounds different off his bat. It just sounds different. It comes off different. It's hard to explain. It's just different. And when you have high-level hitters, sometimes you when you're watching batting practice, or you hear the crack of the bat, and I know these aren't wooden bats, but still the ball just comes off different. It jumps different. It's just a different vibe when certain hitters make good, hard barrel contact. I'm not saying that's Craddock, but, he had some good exit velo yesterday on those hits. But, again, getting on base 5 times, 3 for 3 in the game. South Carolina, like we said, 17 hits. One of the things I thought was good that will fly under the radar because this game was so out of hand and was a run rule, Logan Sutter came in and popped a home run. 2-run homer. Sutter's first hit of the year. And if a guy needed a hit, it was Logan Sutter. Tore it up at Purdue last year, has been very underwhelming so far at South Carolina. And it's early in the season, but also struggled in the preseason. Has been struggling since he got to Columbia. And, again, he has a resume of success. Guy was at 364 last year for the Boilers. Here's a guy that can hit, and he just hasn't so far. And we were talking about this yesterday. This guy, the numbers are too good to give up on him early. You just got to let him go out there and maybe work his way through it a little bit. And Sutter with a 2-run homer, when the game's out of hand, he pops a 2-run bomb. But maybe that'll get Logan Sutter going. That'd be nice. So that was big. Again, KJ Scobie, again, a couple of base hits. Talmadge Lecroy, 3 hits. Reese Moore, a couple more hits. We talked about Craddock. Patrick Evans, another guy who has started slow in the early part of the season, got a couple of base hits as well. So some good news going through the lineup for South Carolina last night. 5 pitchers combined, like I said, to give up only 2 runs. Bradley Hodges went 2 2/3. It was a mixed bag. 2 earned runs, a couple walks, a couple hits to get a strikeout. Zach Russell scattered 3 hits, struck out 3 and 2 1/3. Then you had 3 other pitchers complete this thing until the run rule kicked. So again, 12-2, South Carolina with a nice win. Gamecocks now 4-1 on the season. Army is up next. And it's a very interesting weekend coming up for South Carolina. It's first of all, you get Army on Friday. It's part of the Salute the Troops weekend. You get Navy on Saturday and the Air Force on Sunday. So Army Friday, Navy Saturday, Air Force Sunday. And Coach Maneri also had these thoughts, and we'll get this in here real quick, on getting that W over Gardner-Webb.
As far as tonight goes, I thought it was a great game for us. Obviously, I really challenged the guys last night after we won up in Spartanburg. It was a drive up there, a intense game. Excuse me, and then a drive back, so they get back to their apartments late at night, and then they got a quick turnaround to play a game. So, we acted pretty tired after the game on opening day, and so I challenged them to be ready to go. We gave some new guys an opportunity, thinking that having some guys that haven't played that much or not at all, in fact, that they might give us some real energy out there, and that's exactly what happened. So it was a good win for us tonight. We really started swinging the bats well. I thought some guys coming out of the bullpen really pitched great. Specifically Gregoire, Dudley, Zach Russell threw great. Am I forgetting somebody? Did anybody else come out of the bullpen? That was it, I think, right? Oh, and Hudson Lee, he threw great too. So that was really a great thing for our team. When you get to play a lot of guys, and they're all recruited here for a reason, because they're good baseball players. They get an opportunity to play, and they show that, and it shows the depth that we have. It shows on the mound and with our position players. So it was a really good night for us. I'm really happy about the way they played tonight.
All right, so there's Coach Maneri discussing, specifically the bullpen guys coming in. Gregory, Lee, Dudley ended up, 3 innings of basically shutout ball. If you add in Zach Russell, it's 5 1/3 innings of shutout ball from the pen after you had the opener, Bradley Hodges. So, nice team effort with the pitching staff. We talked about the offense. And, again, this is what you should do in midweek against an inferior opponent. You unrule them and you move on. So, like I said, Army, that's next up on the schedule. The Cadets at Founders, 1:45 pregame, 2 o'clock first pitch. That will be tomorrow here on the Game in Columbia and our affiliate in Myrtle Beach. All right, Shane Beamer did an exclusive with our buddies from Gamecock Central, Chris and Wes. You can find that on the GamecockCentral.com website. But Shane brought up 3 things that this football team is looking at to improve upon, do better, hone in on, work on. And we're going to go over those 3 things for a few segments, but we're going to start next here on the Postgame Show. Terry Ford, appreciate you hanging out with us. We are rolling full show, full 3 hours. I should have took a nap. We're here till 6 on the game. So Shane Beamer doing an exclusive with our buds at Gamecock Central. Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell will sit down. Shane talked about three things with them that basically have to be main areas for the 2026 South Carolina Gamecocks football team. Number one we'll look at is a piece on leadership. Now, Shane pushes back against the notion, I'm reading from the Post, that the team didn't have any leadership during the 2025 season. Shane brought up Nick Barrett as a hell of a leader. And also, he gave the same designation to Luke Doty, who is now on the staff. But then Shane said they didn't have enough leadership. And Shane kind of went into a little bit more detail on what he did or didn't do regarding, setting or building leadership last year. And first of all, look, I'll say this. When he talks about the leadership on last year's team, Nick Barrett has been around for a long time. Remember, he redshirted in 2024 so he could basically start in 2025 because South Carolina was so deep on the interior of the defensive line in 2024 with Tonka and Boogie and all those folks. So yeah, I can see Nick Barrett being a really good leader. Now with Luke Doty, look, Luke Doty's, people respect Luke, they love Luke. We've had him here. He's really a good guy. You can see why a locker room would dig having Luke Doty in it. But I don't know how much you can lead if you're a backup quarterback. And I'm just being honest. It's tough because you're not starting. And on most teams, on pretty much every team, your leaders have to start. There's different levels of how good they are, but they've got to be at least solid, but they got to be starters. You can't suck and be a leader, and really, to me, you can't be a backup and be a leader. Not a true leader like you need, because some guys will look at a backup, even if they like them, they respect them, they're like, "Hey, bro, you're a backup." Don't go with the Nuke Rockney speeches. Don't try to be Al Pacino at halftime or Herb Brooks. So I don't know how much you can lead if you're not a starter. I don't think there was enough leadership on the football team last year. We had this conversation all through 2025. And with Shane, we had him on in December near Christmas, and he said he had a little bit of a thinking about the leadership or maybe the vacuum of leadership as early in the season or maybe even right before the season. Because it felt like Shane did this. When you look at the transfer portal edition, you have Boaz Stanley, who was like in his mid-20s, had a family, sort of like a Demetrius Knight thing. But the problem with Boaz Stanley, and just being honest, he wasn't very good. My man had trouble with the snap count, and he was the center. So it's tough to be a leader when you're struggling on the field and you get benched and then you start again and you're struggling and it's just very difficult to lead when you're having your own issues. And players will look at you like, "Hey man, why don't you just get the snap count right? Don't get in my grill." So I don't know how much of the transfer portal last year was guys who were jumping in leadership roles like the year before with a Demetrius Knight or a Kyle Kennard, Rocket Sanders, guys like that. I think Shane also probably looked at it, and I think this is human nature. Most coaches would probably feel this way, or a decent amount. Okay, I got a bunch of guys on this team who are coming back in 2025. They saw how the vets led in 2024, the grown men, the old dudes. They saw how the OGs led the team, right? So you figure some of these kids are going to naturally step up into leadership roles, and they're going to fill the void of the veterans who took off and finished up their eligibility or their careers at South Carolina. And that just didn't work. It didn't. Multitude of reasons. Some of the reasons we know, some we don't. Your two best players, Lenore Sellers and Dylan Stewart aren't really loud, boisterous alpha male kind of guys. They're really good players, but they're not yelling and screaming and giving speeches and all that stuff. They lead by their play and their work ethic and stuff like that, right? So you start with, the two best players on both sides of the ball really aren't alphas in personality, softer spoken guys. And some of the other players on the team that went through the 2024 football season, a very successful season, who came back for 2025, they didn't kind of blossom as leaders, or not enough of them did. You just didn't have it. And I think it showed. It showed in the Texas A&M game, probably showed in the Bama game, showed in other spots in the season when you needed leaders, you just didn't have them. I always look back on the A&M game where Texas A&M obviously is down huge at the half. Aggies get that touchdown, and Marcel Reed, the quarterback at A&M, has got the entire offense. He might have the entire roster in the stands and all those weird yell people and everything else around him. And he's basically said, all right, here we go. We scored. Let's get these dudes. Let's beat these guys. Let's go. It's time. Basically, given that speech to get everybody all lathered up and let's go come back and win this thing. And when A&M was making their run in that second half, you look at the South Carolina sideline, you weren't seeing that. You weren't seeing leaders going, hey, wait a minute, guys. We're kicking the bleep out of these dudes. Just everybody chill, relax, take a breath. Let's just go back out there and play like we did in the first half. We're going to be fine. Didn't seem like that was happening. So leadership is a huge thing for this football team. Absolutely. You went and got a lot of veteran guys in the portal, guys who have played a ton of snaps. And I think if you're Shane, you look at these older guys and you're hoping that some of these older guys step up like, Demetrius Knight did, or some of the other vets on that 24 team. And you're looking for leadership, and you're looking for that quality. I don't know, it's tougher to measure the intangibles of a player, because transfer portal things like speed dating, right? And you just have to do the best you can, get as much info and intel as you can, and hopefully you're making the right decision on a guy, right? But I'm sure while you're speed dating in this offseason in the portal, I think South Carolina really kind of put an eyeball on leadership. Are you a leader? Sometimes speed dating is tough, especially when you're sometimes not paying attention to personality, so to speak. But you got to pay attention to personality. So leadership matters. It just does. Culture and leadership matters. And I know people, make that bitter beer face when you talk about that stuff, but that's because it's real. And I think Shane is taking a real look at leadership. And maybe even the guys still on the roster. How do you build, more leadership out of those guys who maybe didn't step up like you were hoping they were going to last year? I don't know. I think leadership is something you can't fake. Leadership is something you can't force. You got it naturally somewhere in you, and hopefully it comes out at some point when you're more comfortable. Some guys are really comfortable. Some guys, it might take a little time to make them more comfortable. But we'll see. Like, for example, Lenore Sellers, this is his fourth year in the program. Third year as a starter. Not saying all of a sudden he's got to be screaming and yelling and jumping up and down, but maybe he's more comfortable taking more ownership of things and talking to guys. Leading isn't always about screaming and yelling and being loud. Sometimes leading is like, hey guys, just want to do a group text out. Let's throw on Wednesday at 8 o'clock. My backyard, it's really big. Or, hey, I'm going to start lifting at 7. Who's with me? Sometimes leadership is that kind of stuff and not just screaming and yelling. So we'll see where all this goes. But leadership obviously is one of the three big tenets of the offseason for Shane for the football program. We'll take a look at another one of the three in the next segment here on the Postgame Show. Terry Ford, appreciate you hanging out with us as we roll this baby up until 6 here on the Game Network, and on our YouTube channel at the Game TV Radio. Postgame show, Terry Ford, till 6 here on The Game and The Game Network and at The Game TV Radio on YouTube. All right, so we were going over Shane's 3 tenets for this football program in 2026. 3 things in the offseason that need to get better. We went over leadership and something we've been talking about for months. And Shane talked about, getting better when it comes to leaders. We got into that last segment. This segment, this is interesting to me. Football 101. Now, I won't read all this. You can go to GamecockCentral.com and read the sit-down parts of it that Wes and Chris from our Gamecock Central Takeover Hour are putting up on the website, GamecockCentral.com, about their sit-down, their conversation with Shane. To paraphrase here, Beamer talked about that they need to do a better job of just teaching the game of football to their players. And Shane even said, I know it sounds crazy, but it's not as crazy as you think. Shane was like, a lot of these guys don't know some things about football or don't know why we do certain things we do. Shane said they did a little bit more of that in January. Like, for example, what's in illegal formation? Why is a receiver not eligible in this play? Or why is he eligible in this play? Why, when you line up in a certain place, does that make you ineligible? And again, we saw some of this last year. We saw that, tight end wasn't covered up, or this guy was here and he shouldn't have been there, and it makes him an eligible receiver, or he didn't line up on the line of scrimmage, didn't line up closer to a certain spot. We saw that last year. And you just can't shoot yourself in the feet with pre-snap penalties because you're lined up in illegal formation. You can't remember the snap count. Just self-inflicted wounds that kill you. And those are just tough penalties, man. You got to get rid of them. I think another part of Football 101 to me is if I'm any coach in the country, I'm sitting around watching Indiana's run to the national championship. And one of the things you keep hearing over and over and over and over and over, sort of like when your significant other or spouse just keeps saying to you over and over and over to do the same thing. And you're like, oh my God, if I hear that again, my head's going to explode. But you heard about Indiana is that they didn't beat themselves. They were one of the least penalized teams in the country. They did the fundamentals on a high level. You had to beat them because they weren't going to beat themselves. They weren't going to help you. And to be fair, South Carolina did a lot to help their opponents last year. They just did. And I think it's a big sweeping, not only showing you about legal formation, but just talking in general about not beating yourself, being fundamentally sound, doing your job, doing the little things, no matter how boring and dull they are. And God knows in life how boring and dull the little things are. But they got to be done. It's got to be. If not, you got problems. Like, there are like Tuesdays or Fridays or Thursdays or whatever, you got to take the trash out and put it out there on the front of your house. Boring and dull. Not fun. Sometimes a pain in the butt. But if you don't do it, what happens? Your trash piles up. And we know what that brings. And all of a sudden, the Board of Health is shutting down your home. So you got to do, there's boring things you got to do all the time. But you got to do them. They're not glamorous, they're not fun, but needs to happen. That's the same thing with fundamentals in life. Hell, forget sports, but right now we're focusing on football. The fundamentals of the game, you got to do it. And we saw that last year. You saw the team that won the national championship, fundamentally sound, didn't beat themselves. We watched South Carolina last year at times, not fundamentally sound, and did a nice job of beating themselves. I mean, let's just be fair. You had Alabama beat and let them off the hook. You had A&M beat, let them off the hook. Two teams that were in the college football playoff. You look at that, you're 6-6, still not happy with yourself, but you're at least going to some low-level bowl game and getting extra practice time, and you're not feeling as bad as you are about the season. But you let those two teams get you when they shouldn't have got you. That's just two of them. There's a couple others in there, too, you could probably talk about through the season. So doing the little things, being fundamentally sound, not letting the other team beat you. Boring things. Instead of going for the kill shot on a ball carrier, how about just wrap them up and drop them so they don't get the first down and that team has to punt? Little things. Knowing your blocking assignment. Understanding how to read your blocking. Understanding your route combinations. Understanding your hot routes and who to throw to. Defensively, holding the edge. Playing the right gaps. Knowing and understanding coverages so you don't blow a coverage. Understanding your technique on both sides of the ball so you don't get penalized. Those are the things, man. They just are. That's the reality, the boring, dull stuff, the minutia. But if you don't do it right, you don't win games. You beat yourself at times. So very interesting football 101 is being brought up. I think a lot of schools saw and paid attention to what Indiana did. And yeah, look, maybe you can't spend as much money as Texas. Maybe you don't have the NIL dough that Texas Tech does. Maybe you're not getting all the fancy 5 stars that Georgia or Ohio State does. But the one thing you can control is how well you play fundamentally, right? You can control that. You can control how do I do my job and not make mistakes? How do I focus and concentrate with intensity and purpose so I don't not know the snap count? So, yeah, I think football 101, every school is probably taking a step back going, why don't we just breathe and get back to the fundamentals? What do we say? Because we saw again what the Hoosiers did when they sat back and just did the fundamentals at a high level. We'll get to Shane's third one coming up top of the hour because we have the vault coming up next. Spring Golf Classic is back at Charwood Friday, April 3rd. Charwood at Wynn West Columbia has become a tradition twice a year, the Spring and Summer Golf Classics. This year, again, our buddy Saki will feature the Morning Libations Bar. Kind of get you loosened up for a day of golf. So after you've had your morning libations, you can also use it to, wash down your phenomenal onion sausage provided by the Lexington Gamecock Club. Fantastic onion sausage. And guess what? The golf gun is back. Yes, it is. Probably the favorite thing besides the libations is the golf gun. So we will have the golf gun at one of the tee boxes, and you can tee off with the golf gun, which is a heck of a lot more fun than just using your clubs. $400 a team, $100 for an individual. Call Charwood 803-755-2000. 803-755-2000. When you make that call, press 2 for the clubhouse to get yourself registered against April 3rd at Charwood. It's our Spring Golf Classic from 107.5 The Game Network. So come on out, have some fun with us at Charwood. It's always a good time. We will come back and open the vault. What happened today? That's next here on the Postgame Show, on The Game Network, and on our YouTube channel at The Game TV Radio. All right, we're going to crack open the vault. Interesting day in history. Some Olympic stuff. All-Star Game stuff. We got stuff is what I'm saying. And we'll start going back. So 1928, Canada actually won a gold medal in ice hockey at the Winter Olympics in St. Moritz in Switzerland. Canada was represented by the 1926 Toronto University team, and they received a bye to the final round. They beat Sweden 11-0, Britain 14-0, Switzerland 13-0. They won by a combined total of 38-0 in 3 games and won the gold medal in 1928. Pretty wild. All right, this happened in 1984. The U.S., led by Phil and Steve Mayer. Here's a little taste.
In the late class of 1980. We'll never forget it. Led Ingemar Stenmark after the first race. He took the silver medal up there. Then he went on to win 3 overall World Cup championships. A great ski racer. Been a tough year for him, however. His self-announced decision to give up the World Cup tour after nearly a decade and really leading the U.S. Alpine ski team out of the doldrums to the very top of the heap, if you will. Here's his brother with the best time at the bottom. They have talked back and forth on the walkie-talkie. A lot of pressure on Phil, his wife Holly in Scottsdale, Arizona, with her parents, awaiting the arrival of a child.
All right, so Phil Mayer is in the starting blocks. His brother Steve Mayer is leading in the men's slalom. And then Phil Mayer goes down the hill and beats his brother's time. Both of those times stood, and Phil and Steve Mayer become the first brothers to finish 1-2 in an Olympic event. That was in Sarajevo in 1984. Very cool Olympic moment there. Also, 1984, Cale Yarborough won the Daytona 500, becoming the second driver to win consecutive Daytona 500s. The other was, you'll know, Richard Petty. 1994, speed skater Bonnie Blair won her 4th gold medal of her Olympic career with her 3rd consecutive 500-meter victory. 2005, Schneider. Let me do that again. Schreidner ends the NCAA record losing streak at 83 games in hoops, women's hoops. They beat Sul Ross State 75-69. It was their first win. They had lost 83 straight, and it was their first win in, 3 years. The last team they beat, Sul Ross. Maybe Sul Ross should do something. We should have done something about basketball back then. So 3 years pretty much between wins, but the 83-game losing streak snapped today. And finally, well, there's 2 things finally. 2017, Anthony Davis scored 52 points, which broke an All-Star Game record. Western Conference beat the East 192-182, highest score in All-Star Game in league history. And again, a lot of folks didn't like it. I didn't care. It's an all-star game. It's an exhibition. It doesn't matter. This year, though, going with the patriotism angle, U.S. versus the world, more competitive, more folks seem to like it. I'm not going to lie, I didn't watch any of it. I don't care. Again, it's an all-star game. I don't care. I had Valentine's weekend. It was kind of more important to my physical and emotional health to pay more attention to Valentine's weekend than to the NBA All-Star weekend, if you know what I mean. So, Tara, why are you sleeping out in the garage? And in 2021, in a softening of the 4-year WADA ban on Russia from all international sports, the Russians could compete under an acronym ROC, after the name of the Russian Olympic Committee. Again, that was in 2021. That went through because Russia, obviously, all the issues they had that banned them from the Olympics for a period of time. All right, try to find something real quick, and I will see what I did find. On this day in entertainment history. Let's see what we got here. Anything good? Because I was doing this, and all of a sudden I had to jump on the radio. What happens when you got 17 other thousand things to do? On this day, (1995), dramatic miniseries A Woman of Independent Means starring Sally Fields premieres on NBC, 6 hours over 3 nights. I love me some Sally Field. Love me some Sally Field. And on this day in 1968, I'll leave you with this one. Paul McCartney and his girlfriend at that time, Jane Asher, and Ringo Starr and his wife, Maureen, traveled to India, joining John Lennon, George Harrison, and their wives to study transcendental meditation for 2 months. Ringo only stayed 2 weeks. Ringo's like, I'm out. You know, this transcendental meditation stuff. I'm done. 2 weeks, finished. All right, there's your vault for today, February 19th. Like I said, we will get back to Shane's. We've got one more left. We've gone through the leadership piece and the football 101/fundamentals piece. There's one more tenet of the offseason that South Carolina is working on to improve in 2026 after what was just a disappointing blah of a 2025. So we'll get to that coming up in the next segment to kick off the 4 o'clock hour. All right, we got sweet deals that go on here. You can go to 1075thegame.com. And a little on the top banner there, not the flippy thingy, right above the flippy thingy, there are these little, sections. One is sweet deals. You click on sweet deals, and here's what comes up. One of the things. The Columbia YMCA is our featured sweet deal, 50% off a 6-month membership. That's good. I'm not going to lie. I like myself some YMCA. And I troll around the YMCAs here in the Midlands. And 50% off a 6-month membership is pretty good. Just saying. Pretty good. So that's being offered on Sweet Deals. The Columbia YMCA, again, 6-month membership, 50% off of the membership. So you can check that out again, Sweet Deals, 1075thegame.com. And again, right above the flippy thingy is a section that'll say Sweet Deals. Just click on that. All right, again, coming back, the third of the 3 tenets that Shane Beamer is focusing on in the offseason to help improve Carolina football. We'll get to that next here on the postgame show. Terry Ford, appreciate you hanging out. We are a full show today. We go till 6 here on the Game Network. And you can check us out on our YouTube channel at The Game TV Radio. right, it is the post-game show. Terry Ford hanging out with you. In case you missed the opening of the show, just give you a quick update. Jay Phillips, our co-host here, this week is getting, or did, on Tuesday get his surgery for bladder cancer, and everything has gone as well as it possibly can. Jay's a little sore, but everything was successful. And now he'll be moving forward to recover and get better, and then he'll be back with us here in the next couple weeks, hopefully. So but everything went as well as expected, so far as what I've been told. So just give you a little update on that. And again, keep Jay in your thoughts like we are here at the game and the Game Network. So just want to let you know what was going on there. All right, so yesterday, South Carolina run rules Gardner-Webb. Pulmonary post-game. Obviously very happy overall. You held the opposition to 2 runs. You went with a bullpen by committee and you used an opener. Offensively, you had 17 hits, over 20 base runners, scored 12 runs. Your freshman, Will Craddock, had 3 hits, reached base 5 times. So a good day overall, and here's Coach Maneri post-game talking about the team's offense.
I've said this before, when things don't go good, there's advantages to being old like me. You've seen it all. And I don't panic because I've had a lot of teams through the years that didn't hit great the opening weekend of the season, and at every stop that I've been. So, I thought the way that we played the first day with the doubleheader and swept it and had the big clutch hits at the end of the game by Bach and then the walk-off home run. I thought we'd go out the next day and just be loosey-goosey and let it rip, and it just didn't happen for us. We just had a really poor day at the plate, and I was so disappointed because it was such a great crowd here and it was a beautiful day, and I just thought we were going to go out and hit like we did tonight, but it didn't happen. But I know this game is a hard game to play, and so I've believed from the get-go that we have a good team. I thought our pitching was going to be really good, and then, of course, we lose McCoy, and we have a couple other guys that are on the shelf. Hudson Lee went out there today. I hate to say this, but he pitched with a broken foot. He just doesn't want to stop playing, and he's seen the doctors, and he just wants to pitch through it, and he was awesome tonight, and he didn't have any pain, but it just shows the character of the kids that we have. They want to play, they want to go out there and compete. I knew our pitching was going to be good, and I felt strongly that we had some really good position players. I think my biggest problem is going to be finding playing time for them all. It's a problem that you want to have as a coach.
And you hope that is going to be a problem moving forward. Look, again, it was a nice win, 12-2. You run ruled Gardner-Webb. It's awesome. Offensively, things went well. Your pitching, you got to be happy with. But again, it's Gardner-Webb. Let's not sugarcoat it and make it more than it is. It's a game that you're expected to win, and you did it in the way you should. You popped them by 10 runs. You ended the game early, and everybody got to go home. Everybody go for ice cream. But when you look at it, what you're hoping for out of this thing, too, is like you want to say this. KJ Scobie's really ripping it. Hope that's something he can continue to do as the competition level ramps up. Reese Moore has been as advertised. He's a hitter. Talmadge LeCroy has been a pleasant surprise so far offensively. We hope he can keep doing it when the competition gets tougher. Same thing with Reese Moore. You say, wow, it's really good to see Patrick Evans get a couple of knocks. Will Craddock, that freshman, he showed us the stuff we've been seeing, since he showed up on campus. We know he's going to have his ups and downs, but, man, there's a high ceiling with that kid. Then you say Logan Sutter, thank goodness he got a hit. And not just a hit, but a home run. Maybe he can snap out of the funk he's been in because this guy really hit at Purdue. And Tyler Bach continues moving with another base hit, scored a couple runs. You hope he can chug along the way he has been early in the season. And look, you're sitting around thinking, Ethan Lozama is going to hit. We're very confident in that. because that's how you feel. So that's kind of what you take away from this stuff. And the pitching again, you got a guy in Hudson Lee throwing with a broken foot, and through 2/3 scoreless with a couple of strikeouts. So a good day overall. You handled your business like you should, and now you move forward. You have your Armed Forces weekend with Army, Navy, and Air Force, and hopefully you can stack more wins and move into next week and set yourself up for the Clemson series, which is your first true test as a baseball team. We'll hear more from Paul Maneri through the show and also in our 5 o'clock news and Gamecock Notebook as well. All right, post-game show, Terry Ford, appreciate you hanging. We started off with Shane Beamer's tenets, his 3 tenets of getting better in 2026, what this team has to do to improve. We've gone through 2 of the 3. One was leadership. The other was football 101/fundamentals. The third one is roster age and production. South Carolina has 25 players coming in through the transfer portal. And we've talked to Shane about this in the postseason here on the show, talking about increasing the age of the roster and bringing in guys with proven production. I mean, I don't know if you've seen this on social media. For example, South Carolina's offensive line this year will feature one of the highest returning overall snap count totals in college football. And Shane talks about how the team was old in 24, and you see how good it was. Last year, weren't old, and you saw what the results were. Shane is in about bringing older guys with leadership qualities. And look, again, the Indiana model, the Vanderbilt model, 2 of the oldest rosters in the country, and look what they did. It's just that's the direction of this thing. It's easy. If I can have a 24 or 25-year-old play it at a high level, that beats the heck out of having a 20-year-old. The 24, 25-year-old's got more experience, more mature. Hopefully we get a 24, 25-year-old that's more of a leader, can help with the culture, blah, 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 blah. It just makes sense. That's why you see these older rosters winning. The last 3 national champions are older rosters, veteran guys, whether it was through the portal or just staying and developing at the school. Indiana, Michigan, Ohio State, Michigan. So Shane sees it as, there's a trend. That's one thing with Shane. No one's going to sit here and say that it hasn't been a roller coaster ride through Shane's coaching tenure. There have been some high highs and low lows. Absolutely. And some of the things that have seemed to have held him back, we'll get into that here in a little bit. But one of the things Shane seems to do well is he looks around and he's self-aware enough to say, you know what? That's working there, and there. What the hell? Let's try it here. Or that's not working here. Let's go in another direction to do better or get better. Some guys are stuck in their ways. They don't evolve. They don't change. They're not self-aware enough to go, you know, what I'm doing sucks. It used to be okay, but now it sucks. I got to stop doing it. That's the one thing with Shane is he's not afraid to take a step back and look at the big picture and go, I think we got to do something else. Not digging that anymore. And that's kind of what you're seeing with this after going through last year and then, you know, being there for the success of 2024 with an older roster, with leaders. Shane's looking at that as more of a thing that you need to be successful. Older players, guys who you're hoping will bring leadership and maturity to the room and to your football team. So that's the 3 things: football 101, fundamentals, roster age and production, and leadership. Those are the 3 things Shane wanted to improve on this football team from last year. And look, the last time this happened, South Carolina went 5-7. Everybody was disappointed. Nobody expected anything from the football team. And they went out, and what did they do? They almost made the college football playoff. After Shane's first year, where they did go 7-6 after winning the Mayo Bowl, nobody really looked at South Carolina like a team that could, God forbid, knock off 2 top 10 ranked squads and kick them both out of the college football playoff, but that's what South Carolina did, and they won 8 games. Then you had the expectations of 2023, and that went 5-7. Then no one expected anything from South Carolina after a 5-7 campaign. You got an unknown, unproven quarterback, a lot of other unknowns and unproven situations, and South Carolina went out and won themselves 9 games. And then last year again, there's tons of expectation. The most expectation on this football program since Steve Spurrier was the ball coach. And it was miserable. Massively underachieving, very disappointing, a 4-8 campaign. But the good news now, this year, no expectations. None. A couple of people like Greg McElroy, South Carolina could be a sleeper team. But most folks are going to look at South Carolina as, whatever. Coming off a 4-8, yeah, maybe they'll sneak into a bowl game. But nobody's expecting like anything more than maybe a 6-win season nationally. This is where Shane's got people right where he wants them. Because like I said, we went over the tenure of Beamer. Whenever there's low expectations, Shane delivers. When there's higher expectations, that's where there's been issues. And look, it could be a million reasons. But one of the things that I look at and think of from dealing with coaches, some coaches are more comfortable being the hunter, being the underdog, being disrespected. Nobody believes in us. It's us against the world, man. It's us. It's us. This is all we've got. Everybody, these haters don't believe in us like we believe in us. I think Shane goes down that road more comfortably than being the hunted, where there's expectation, high belief. And look, Shane's always said, we embrace expectation. It means that we're good. And I'm not saying he doesn't. I just feel like it feels like he's more comfortable coaching a football team that has lower expectations and a football team that has higher expectations. Just from the body of work we've seen here. So again, the good news, there's not going to be a lot of expectation. So hopefully that plays into South Carolina's hands like it has in other years under Shane. All right, speaking of Shane, I was checking out a couple of these hot seat websites and social media accounts. Where does Shane sit on the hot seat meter? We'll give you that next here on the postgame show. Hey, the Grand Slam contest is back. It's sponsored by Crescent Construction. If a Gamecock hitter goes yard with the bases loaded, you go win cash. It's that easy. The pot goes up $25 after every game. Sponsored by Crescent Construction. So right now we've had 5 games, no Grand Slam. So now the pot is going to be $150 for Friday's tilt against Army. Again, 1:45 pregame, 2 o'clock first pitch here on the game. But again, it goes up $25 every game there isn't a Grand Slam. So it is the Crescent Construction Grand Slam contest. You can go to 1075thegame.com. Look for that little flippy thingy. Click on the Crescent Construction Grand Slam contest. Fill out whatever little entry form we have. Click confirm or send or whatever you got to click. And boom, you're in. It's that simple. That simple. It's going on all year here on The Game and The Game Network and at The Game Radio TV on YouTube. I will pop back. Check the hot seat temperature for Shane Beamer and others. That's next here on the postgame show. Terry Ford, appreciate you hanging till 6 on The Game. Time to talk about our bud Star and all the folks at CHW Cabinetry. You can go online, check out CHW Cabinetry. Look at all the great work they do, the fine craftsmanship brought to you from CHW Cabinetry. Also, you can find out about their photorealistic renderings, something that is just screams great customer service and transparency with the customer. You will see from beginning to end your job, your work getting done. They will answer all your questions, talk you off the ledge on things, help you out, making sure that you can do what you want to do within the budget you have, all of those things. That's what happens at CHW Cabinetry. Fine work, fine craftsmanship, phenomenal customer service. Call 803-520-6837, 803-520-6837, CHW Cabinetry, 2-Notch in Lexington. All right, check into some hot seat action in college football. This is from, where's it at? Yeah. College Football Report. They have this hot seat tier. And we'll go over this about agreeing and disagreeing with some of these. All right, start off with the lifetime contract crew. Indiana, Oregon, Georgia, Notre Dame, Iowa, and Clemson. So basically, Kurt Signetti, Dan Lanning, Kirby Smart, Marcus Freeman, Dabo, the whole crew. Kurt Ferentz, lifetime contract guys. Now, look, we have said, and I've said it here, that I think what Kurt Ferentz has done at Iowa, despite the one-loss record, is just, it's awful. The fact that he had football teams that were among the best in the nation on defense, among the best in the nation on special teams, because his son was the offensive coordinator, he wouldn't get rid of his kid. And the offenses were awful, terrible. They were a joke, a punchline. abysmal. They were cheering for punts at Iowa. The offense was so bad. Matter of fact, the punter was the offensive MVP every year. So I get Kurt Ferentz one-loss record on the surface. Looks good, solid. He's had some excellent years. He's a heck of a football coach. But he missed the boat for a few years with teams that if they would have even just had average offenses, could have competed to win the Big Ten because their defense and special teams were so good. But Kurt Ferentz is going nowhere. He's a lifer at Iowa. He's survived a couple of bumpy moments. He'll basically leave when he wants to leave. I think the same thing with Kirby at Georgia. I think the same thing with Coach Sig at Indiana. Dan Lanning, look, I like Dan Lanning. I do, but, until you make that run in the postseason, there's going to be the little asterisk by your name, fair or not, just like Ryan Day had it for a long time. Ryan Day was like, yeah, man, it's great. You win 80% of your games, but you've been losing to Michigan, and you haven't won a national championship in the college football playoff. Come on, Bob. And at Ohio State, John Cooper got fired because he couldn't beat Michigan and he couldn't win bowl games despite the fact that his winning percentage was phenomenal. Dan Lanning is going to get looked at as a little side eye, a little eyebrow until he does, at least get to the college football playoff championship game. He's got a ton of resources. Oregon should be a perennial contender. They just should. But at some point, Dan Lanning's going to have to break through, or at least, like I said, win himself up to a college football playoff championship game at Oregon. Ice cold seats. Brent Bielema at Illinois. Brett Lashley at SMU. Steve Sarkisian at Texas. Obviously, Matt Campbell just showed up at Penn State. Our guy Sataki at BYU. Ryan Day at Ohio State. Lane Kiffin just got to LSU. Obviously. Also, Clark Lee at Vandy. How about that resurrection, so to speak? You go from a guy on the hot seat 2 years ago to now a dude whose seat is ice cold and you got a new fancy contract, and they might build a statue of you outside the stadium. Mike Elko at A&M. Mario Cristobal, now that his team has played for a national championship. Ken Dillingham at Arizona State, fine young coach. I mean, he had all sorts of quarterback issues last year and still had Arizona State being competitive. Phenomenal work there. The quarterback situation, and Dillingham kept him going. I always judge these coaches, how are you doing when things aren't going your way? How are you doing? How's that going for you? And Dillingham really handled it well. Really did. And his name, obviously, every year is going to come for a job. Even though he is from the area right around the Arizona State campus, loves Arizona State. Every year, his agent's going to keep his name in the mix. So that way, either A, he can get more stuff from Arizona State, or B, he can go get a job paying a ton of dough. Joey McGuire at Texas Tech, also safe. Yeah, Texas Tech to the college football playoff. So that gives McGuire safety for now. Manny Diaz at Duke. Again, I know Duke won the ACC, but still was a 5-loss team, and I guess it's ice cold. I might put that more into the cold area if it's me, because if Manny Diaz has a couple of really bad years, he's probably going to be gone. All right, the cold section. Brett Bielema at Illinois. The cold section, Jeff Brom at Louisville. Safe. Also, obviously, Kyle Winningham at Michigan. He just got there. Safe. James Franklin just got to Virginia Tech. Safe. They say Sonny Dykes is on a cold seat at TCU. Okay. I guess. Row the boat at Minnesota. Safe. Obviously, John Summerall just got to Florida, so he's safe. Yeah, I guess. Some of those feel like they should be cold. Brent Pry at Georgia Tech, oh, absolutely. After what he's done at Georgia Tech, I might even put him on the ice cold, to be honest. He's done a really nice job. Really nice job. Willie Fritz has done really nice work at Houston. He's cold as well. Now we get to let's get to warm and hot. We're running out of time. Let's just get to hot and scorching hot. Hot seat, Bill Belichick, North Carolina. Deion Sanders, Colorado. Jeff Lebby, Mississippi State. I don't think Lebby's on a hot seat. Not yet. Give him time to rebuild that thing. That's special circumstances at Mississippi State. Deion's had one really good year. And last year was once he lost his major players from the year before. Hot seat? No, I think Deion gets one more year, and then there's a hot seat because of some of the good feels he's brought to Colorado in his tenure. Scorching hot seat. Our boy Coach Newell at Florida State, absolutely. Luke Fickell at Wisconsin, absolutely. Mike Loxley at Maryland, absolutely. Shane Beamer, South Carolina. I get it. And it's really, look, in the world we live in college football, you can one year win 9 games, just miss the college football playoff, get contract extension, get a ton of love, have people think your program is on the rise and all these other wonderful things, and then you hit expectation the next year and you fall on your face. If you would have just, let's say you would have gone 6-6, went to a bowl game, you wouldn't be on a scorching hot seat. It would be, well, it was kind of disappointing, but at least we found a way to scratch ourselves to a bowl game. But when you crater to 4 wins after being, number 10 in the country after week 2, that lands hard, man. It just does. Now, do I think Shane's it should be scorching hot? I guess if you know you have to have a winning season or you could be let go, that's a pretty hot seat. So I guess I'll go with scorching hot to the point of, another 4 or 5 win campaign and you're the ex-coach. I guess. See, I think Bill Belichick, if year 2 is worse than year 1, then it's probably like, hey, Bill, let's have a talk. I could maybe see that happening. But if North Carolina's a little bit better and they're showing improvement, Bill will probably stay. Same thing with Deion. If Colorado gets back to a bowl game, Deion will probably be okay. And Jeff Lebby, just keep getting better at Mississippi State. I don't think the hot seat talk should be until after this season, depending on what happens with the Mississippi State football program. But I see Mike Loxley at Maryland. I mean, basically they said, okay, coach, you've been bellyaching about money. We're going to give you more money. You better go win or you're out. And the same thing happened to Luke Fickell at Wisconsin. Look, I think Florida State kept Newell around just because, or Norvell, not Newell, I'm sorry, Mike Norvell, because they're spending a ton of money on building up the stadium and doing all these other things. They didn't want to pay the money on the buyout. That's why he's still there. Because I think Norvell, and I see why you would fire him after these last 2 awful seasons in Tallahassee. Remember, Florida State thought they made it back. Remember, back-to-back really good years under Norvell? It's like, Seminoles are back, baby. Well, guess not. So that's a little coaching hot seat landscape from, again, the folks at College Football Report. All right, post-game show. Terry Ford, appreciate you hanging out with us as we run this baby up until 6 here on the game. Saw a depth chart for South Carolina, the way too early depth chart. I think Wes Mitchell did it on Gamecock Central. We'll pick at that a little bit and give you some thoughts from Wes, and then we'll give you our thoughts on Wes's thoughts. That's next here on the post-game show. Appreciate you hanging out. We go up until 6 here on the Game Network, and at the Game TV radio on YouTube. Game Network Traffic Report sponsored by Schroeder's Towing. We've got some accidents. Decker Boulevard at Brookfield Road, also Highway 17 southbound at Burgess Road, Sunnyside Avenue. In Lexington, I-20 eastbound right after Highway 34, that is exit 44. 26 westbound right before the I-20 exit at 107B. Monticello Road near Blue Ridge Terrace. Sumter Street at Blanding in downtown Columbia, an accident there. We'll jump back in. Talk about the way too early depth chart that Wes Mitchell, our buddy from the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, put up on Gamecock Central. We'll get into that next here on the post-game show. Terry Ford, appreciate you hanging. We run till 6 here on the Game and the Game Network. All right, so last night, South Carolina run rules Gardner-Webb 12-2. Will Craddock was one of the big stories. The Gamecock freshman had 3 hits, got on base 5 times. Craddock also cracked a triple in the game. And here is the freshman talking about that triple in the postgame.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, off the bat, I know I hit it well, and then just picked up Coach Hendry around in second base, and he sent me, so it was cool. It was a cool moment.
There you go. Less is more, man. You're a freshman. You're in front of the mic at college for the first time. Less is more. Smart move. Again, Craddock, a lot of high ceiling and a lot of ability, a lot of potential, and a lot of hope that Craddock will end up being the player that a lot of folks at South Carolina they think he could be. So Craddock, again, 3 for 3, got on base twice in the victory. And in case you missed it, we played this last hour, but in case you didn't catch it, here was Coach Maneri talking about the freshman from Anderson, South Carolina's debut.
I just love me some Will Craddock, to be honest with you. He's been such a fun kid to be around and to coach. And from the day he arrived on campus in the fall, in the summer even, when he was here in the summer, he's just a great kid. He's always smiling. He's just so pleasant to be around. And he don't let that smile and that pretty face fool you, though. He's a tiger. I mean, he's a competitor, and he wants to get in there. And he's more than held his own in scrimmage games in the fall as well as in the preseason here. I think the thing I'm most proud about him tonight was how he hung in there with 2 strikes all the time. He drew a walk there at the end. I think he hit that triple, if I'm not mistaken, with 2 strikes on him. So he's starting to recognize pitches a little bit better, the off-speed pitches. But listen, he impacts the ball. He impacts the game. He's going to be I've been telling you this from day one. He's going to be a special player here, and the more he plays, the better he's going to get. He's not going to be perfect. He's not going to reach base 5 times every game. But trust me, he's going to have some days where the game looks a little Greek to him. But he's going to continue to get better. There's no question in my mind about it. He's got all the qualities. I've been around a lot of great players in my coaching career, and I think Will's got a chance to be a really, really outstanding one. Just got to figure out where to play him. We got to make sure we got to find a way to get him into the lineup because he makes an impact on the ball game.
So we'll see what happens with Will Craddock moving forward. Again, nice debut against Gardner-Webb, going 3 for 3. Also a couple of walks, had that triple, so got on base 5 times. All right, again, baseball tomorrow, 1:45 pregame, 2 o'clock first pitch. South Carolina taking on Army. Very nice weekend. Salute to the troops. Army Friday, Navy Saturday, and Air Force Sunday. All right, so South Carolina football. We'll switch gears here on the postgame show with Terry Ford here on the Game Network, and our YouTube channel at the Game TV Radio. Wes Mitchell from the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour here on the Game from 11 to 12, and also GamecockCentral.com posted on GC depth charts for the offense and the defense. I figure we take a look at those babies. First of all, in the offense, Lenore Sellers, starting quarterback. The running back room, Matt Fuller, Christian Clark, Jawan Howe. Who knows? Who knows? They're all interesting in their own way. I've been a Jawan Howe guy since we first saw him run the football a couple years ago. You saw it last year. He pops at times. He makes plays. I guess it's pass protection where he's going to struggle blocking. Maybe he's not. Maybe he's not a great practice player. Shane and lots of coaches put so much value in how you practice. There's just something about Howe. Christian Clark had a 100-yard game at Texas. Matt Fuller, he had the big run against LSU for a touchdown. Did have some moments. I'll be honest with you. I liked Howe's body of work last year, or Howe's production in his smaller body of work, than Matthew Fuller, who got more of an opportunity than Howe. That's just me. Wes says here that there have been whispers that new running back coach Stan Drayton likes Fuller's ability. Other major programs tried to get Fuller into the portal. We'll see. Maybe a new offensive coordinator with a new run game system and scheme and philosophy, a new offensive line coach that will hopefully get the offensive line to be solid. Maybe Fuller pops and becomes the runner a lot of people thinks that he could be. We'll see. But the running back situation is going to be something to keep an eye on. Again, depth chart by Wes, Matt Fuller, Christian Clark, Jawan Howe. Wide receiver, Nick Harbor, Donovan Murph, Jaden Sellers, the starters. On the two deep behind Harbor, Malik Clark. Behind Murph, Nitro Tuggle. And behind Sellers, Mazio Bennett. That sounds like a pretty interesting crew, to be quite honest with you. It does. Harbor started to happen. Started to see more playmaking, catching the ball better, getting a little bit smoother in the route running. It's coming, and hopefully it gets even better this year. And there's no track and field. If Nick Harbor if he wants to stick with football, the Olympics, he's got time till this next Summer Olympics. By then, either he's an NFL player and he's not running in the Summer Olympics, or he's got football out of his system and he's dedicating himself to the Olympics as a sprinter. But Harbor can improve again this year if he chooses just to play football. And obviously that's going to be his choice. And who knows what Nick will do. But if you stay, we saw when Harbor stayed with football all year round, and it feels like he is. I haven't seen anything to the contrary about Harbor and track. And maybe I've missed it. If I have, I'll go look. But Harbor, if you saw more of it last year, and who knows, this could conceivably be, we'll see what Harbor does this year. And if he continues to make these improvements, he'll hear his name in the NFL draft easily day 2, and he might even move himself into a day 1 conversation before it's over with. Who knows? Sky's the limit with his physical ability. Donovan Murphy, forget Donovan Murphy should have been in high school last year. Yeah. And Jaden Sellers, he showed some serious potential in the slot when he stepped in and took over that role late in the year. So Malik Clark and Nitro Tuggle and Mazio Bennett on the two deep. Tuggle had some good moments at Purdue. He's just got to stop dropping passes. Mazio Bennett disappeared last year. I'm surprised Bennett's still at South Carolina with the tons of talent in that wide receiver room. And Malik Clark, a 4-star, showed a little bit something in the spring game last year. A lot of people like Clark, so it's a interesting deal there of those 6. Offensive line, Jacarius Peak as a starter at left tackle, Shed Surratt at left guard, Carter Miller at center, Kojo Poku at guard, and Josiah Thompson at right tackle. That feels like a pretty solid offensive line potentially. It really does. Those guys. Backing up the ones, Dane Arnett at right tackle, Marquis Anderson at right guard, Nolan Hay at center, Hank Purvis at left guard, and Damola Adjadine. I know I screwed it up, backing up Jacarius Peak. But you like that offensive line. Tight end, Brady Hunt, Maurice Brown. Then you have Mike Tyler and Max Drag. A lot of folks like Tyler's physical ability. So that's the offense. We'll get to the defense in the next segment. Give you a little idea of the too deep, way too early, too deep by Wes Mitchell. All right, tonight, Carolina Calls with Lamont Paris on 107.5 The Game in Columbia and our affiliate in Myrtle Beach, 100.3 The Game. On B106.7 tonight, the women get back at it. And you can hear that action 8 o'clock pregame, 8:30 tip against Alabama. All right, we'll look at the two deep on the defensive side of the ball next on the postgame show on The Game. Rolling through the 4 o'clock hour here on the postgame show. Terry Ford, appreciate you hanging with us. Rolling solo. Again, tonight, Carolina Calls at 7 here on The Game in Columbia and our affiliate 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach. The women on B106, 8 o'clock pregame, 8:30 tip in Tuscaloosa, taking on number 25 ranked Alabama. And again, that's on B106.7. All right, we've been going through this depth chart. We did the offense. Now we'll go to the defense. This one's easy. On one edge, Dylan Stewart. The other edge, Caleb Herring, the transfer in from Tennessee. I like that addition. With 5 sacks last year in a part-time rotational type role on the edge. A lot of folks think that, not it would be a huge upset, but a lot of folks feel like it's pretty safe to say if Caleb Herring handles his business like the coaching staff thinks he will, that he'll be the edge starter. Behind Stewart and Herring will be George Wilson, who was showing some stuff till he got injured last year, and Julian Walker, the freshman, who has a ton of ability. So that's the deal with the edge. The interior, Gabe Brownlow Dindy, who when healthy was good last year, really was, and Kelby Collins, one of the Collins brothers, coming in off the portal, will back up Brownlow Dindy. And I know I've watched this name on YouTube 50 times, and I'm going to mess it up. Tamiwa Durajayi, the defensive tackle through the transfer portal from Illinois, who was good last year. And then Troy Pikes will back him up. That feels like a nice four-man rotation. We saw Pikes again. Durajayi, I know I screwed it up, but I'm sorry. Had some really good moments at Illinois last year. If you looked at Pro Football Focus grades, his grades were good against the run and rushing the passer. And if you can get heat coming up the middle, like a Tonka Hemingway did 2 years ago, or Brownlow Dindy did at times last year, quarterbacks hate pass rush in their face. And then, of course, like we said, in the edge, if Stewart and Herring can get it going, it'd be nice if it was sort of like Stewart and Kennard 2 years ago. We'll see. But it feels like nice depth there on the defensive front. Linebacker, I mean, you got three guys coming back in J.R. Johnson, Sean Murphy, Justin Arkawanko. I mean, all three had moments where they were really good, had learning curve moments where they struggled. But experience, these guys are athletic. And it's just about gaining experience and knowledge. And that happened through the season. But it's good to have those three back. And your fourth one in the rotation to replace Jerron Willis could be Donovan Darden. Could be an A.J. Holloway, a Josh Smith. That fourth linebacker spot, not going to get a ton of reps, but you're going to get some. That's going to be a battle. Then in the secondary, Gerald Kilgore, right now on the way too early depth chart at free safety. You got Peyton Williams at strong safety, last year's starter. The corners, Judge Collier, who, I mean, he was hurt to start the year. Got hurt early in the Virginia Tech game. Took a while to come back and just never seemed comfortable. But Judge Collier the year before was solid. So Judge Collier coming back again. The other corner, and I'm telling you, I think this will be the year of Vakari Swain on defense. You like what you see with him. He's aggressive. He's athletic. Did a nice job in coverage. Has no problem coming up in the run game. A good blitzer. Obviously an excellent return man. I think Vakari Swain at corner could really pop this year. He's got some serious tools in the tool case. At nickel is Sheed Scott, the transfer from Kentucky, which makes sense. Sheed Scott could start at safety, could start at nickel. But Sheed Scott will be on the field. There's no doubt. Backing up the starters, Jazavian Currents, the freshman at free safety. David Busey at strong safety, excellent special teamer. DeMarcus Leach at one corner, Jalewis Solomon at the other corner, Jaquel Holman at nickel. Now, this thing could get flipped upside down. Let's just say maybe Gerald Kilgore can't win that safety spot. Then you could see Sheed Scott end up there. And then what happens, maybe a Jaquel Holman in the slot or nickel. Or DeMarcus Leach. I mean, Jazavian Currents, a lot of people like the freshman safety. So we'll see what happens there. Maybe Currents wins a gig. We've seen freshmen start before at Carolina. So that is the depth chart on defense, the way too early depth chart. But I think a lot of things are just, if Caleb Herring can, and I'm not saying win the Nagurski, but if Caleb Herring can give you anywhere near the production that Kyle Kennard did 2 years ago off the edge, if Dylan Stewart is going to be doubled and tripled and quadrupled and chipped and tripped and tackled and held and all the other things that happened to Dylan Stewart last year. And look, Brian Thomas did a solid job on the other side. But if you get somebody that can consistently make the opposition pay and pay dearly for putting all that attention to Dylan Stewart, if Caleb Herring can do that, then, the opposing pass defense or the pass offense really gets hamstrung. And we saw 2 years ago how good the coverage was when quarterbacks had, like a second to throw it, maybe two, whatever before the pass rush just ate them up. Because you had pass rush from the interior from Tonka and that crew. So I think a lot of things start there for South Carolina. And we'll see. All right, there's your depth chart, the way too early depth chart from Wes Mitchell on both sides of the ball. All right, coming up, we have the 5 o'clock news from Integrated Media. We're going to jump into some more of this Kansas State nonsense with the Jerome Tang situation. The AD, Gene Taylor, talked about the firing of Jerome Tang. And Mick Cronin, the UCLA head basketball coach, is in the news. And look, Mick Cronin has been obviously agitated all season. And he's had some classic moments in press conferences. Some of them are funny. Some of them are cringy. The other day, it was just bleeping unacceptable, just to be blunt. We'll get into that in the 5 o'clock news as well. And David Pollock's thoughts on offensive linemen today, that's coming up in the 5 o'clock hour as well. Here on the Postgame Show, Terry Ford, thanks for hanging out. 5 o'clock news from our Buds Integrated Media is next on the Postgame Show on the game. All right, from the Schroeder's Towing Traffic Center, we have some accidents. Garner's Ferry to Atlas Road Also, I-20 eastbound at 2 Notch, exit 74. I-20 eastbound at Alpine Road, exit 76B. I-26 westbound right before the I-20 exit at 107B. And, of course, we have our typical long-term road construction. We'll come back, 5 o'clock news sponsored by Integrated Media. We'll tell you, in case you haven't heard, what happened in the women's gold medal game in hockey, the U.S. and Canada. We'll get into that coming up as part of our 5 o'clock news sponsored by Integrated Media next. All righty, let's roll the 5 o'clock news, sponsored by our Buds Integrated Media, Michael and Nathan and the crew. The USA, the women in hockey, have been just boat racing everybody, right? Going into today's gold medal game, I believe they had outscored their opponents 30-1 in the Olympics. Well, Canada, early second period, got a shorthanded goal to take a 1-0 lead. Things look bleak. But Hillary Knight scored the game-tying goal to force overtime. And then Megan Keller of the U.S. scores the overtime winner. And obviously, anarchy on the ice ensued. The United States wins the gold. Hard-fought victory over Canada. Third U.S. gold medal in the Women's Olympics since they instituted women's hockey. So again, 2-1, what a game. The United States beating Canada. All right, yesterday in baseball, South Carolina run rules, Gardner-Webb 12-2, 17 hits for the Gamecocks in the contest. Offensively, multiple folks had 2 or more hits. Leading the way was Will Craddock, who went 3 for 3, scored 4 runs, was on base 5 times. Craddock in the game, ripped a triple among his hits. Also with multiple hits, KJ Scobie, again, multiple hit contest, 2 for 5. Knocked in a couple. Reese Moore, the DH, 2 for 3. Just a good day at the ballpark. Offensively, the pitching, a bullpen game. 5 pitchers combined to only give up 2 runs on 6 hits, 9 strikeouts in the game for South Carolina. So a good outing for the Gamecocks all the way around. Head coach Paul Maneri in the postgame. Another big moment, Logan Sutter. Again, a big transfer portal addition from Purdue. Sutter hit over 360 last year at Purdue, but has been really struggling offensively since coming to South Carolina. Here is Paul Maneri, just taking a minute and a half roughly to talk about Logan Sutter finally getting himself a hit.
Jack, I hope so. You know, we've been waiting for it. I mean, this kid's hit everywhere he's been. You know, and then, you know, he just has not really swung the bat well. That, you know, I saw him get 4 hits all fall. They were all singles. I saw him get 4 hits in preseason. They were all singles. He was striking out a lot and just wasn't in sync, you know. And, you know, it was good. I'm happy for him. I'm sure that took a load off him to hit a ball like that. I knew he was capable of it. We just hadn't seen it. And, you know, it was kind of blind faith starting the season with him in, you know, as a second baseman. And then, he really didn't swing the bat great in the first weekend. I had to pinch hit for him a couple times, and then I just thought I wanted to give some other guys an opportunity. And now we've got a good problem because everybody that I've put in there has played well. And Logan's put himself obviously back in the hunt with one swing of the bat because you see what he's capable of. We'll figure it out. We still got time to go before, well, not a lot of time before we play Clemson, but a couple of weeks to go before we play SEC, and we'll figure it out. But guys get hurt, and guys go in slumps and so forth. So, I've always said I don't want to just have 9 guys I could consider starting players. I'd rather have 11 or 12, and that's going to be kind of the case, I think, going forward. So, like I said, it's going to be up to me to manage it properly to make sure we get everybody playing time without, hurting guys' ability to get into a groove, too.
Yeah, I get what Coach Ranieri's saying. You like to have depth. You want a bench you can rely on in case you need them, in case a dude gets hurt, or you got game situations where you need to dip into your depth. I understand the whole thing, I do. But to what Coach Ranieri just said, guys need to be able to get into a groove. You got to get ABs. You got to get into a rhythm. You can't be comfortable if you're always looking over your shoulder that, okay, man, I went 0 for 2. He's going to pull me for a pinch hitter. Logan Sutter has hit everywhere. He just has, except so far at South Carolina. And I know he had, and again, like Coach Ranieri said, he only had 4 hits in the preseason. They were all singles. But he jacked one yesterday. It was a 2-run homer. And maybe that gets him out of this slump. The guy is hit, again, everywhere. And maybe I'm a little, I'm almost like when a guy has a track record of success and he starts off not successful, I'm going to give him every opportunity to get successful because he has a track record. And Logan Sutter has a track record. So hopefully this isn't one of those things that this guy gets lost in the shuffle because he started slow. And because you need to win games, and because there's hot seats, and there's expectation, and there's pressure, and there's lack of patience, and all that stuff. A lot of those things can, turn stuff sideways. And you just, again, I would be giving Logan Sutter every opportunity to show me he is the hitter that he's always been. And that pinch hit 2-run homer hopefully gets him out of this slump, this funk, and gets him right. So we'll talk more about what happened with South Carolina during the Gamecock Notebook, and we will also hear more from Coach Ranieri as well. All right, so 5 o'clock news sponsored by Integrated Media here on The Game Network, and on our YouTube channel at The Game TV Radio. Mick Cronin, after a loss to Michigan State where UCLA got whooped at East Lansing, was being asked a question about the Michigan State student section, which has a reputation in the Big Ten as being loud, rowdy, whatever. And here is what Mick Cronin said to it. It sounds like a young reporter asking the question.
What was your thought in the student section chanting Booker's name?
I could give a rat's ass about the other team's student section.
I just meant the overall the way that you
I would like to give you a kudos for the worst question I've ever been asked.
Did you like
You should take it.
the preparation of
Do you really think I care about the other team's
No, I don't.
student
I don't
section?
think you care about the other.
Are you raising your voice at me?
No, I'm just.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. Come on, dude.
No reason.
Come on. Yes, you are. Everybody's standing here listening to you. Everybody. This is on camera. They can hear you. I answered the question. I could give a rat's ass about the other team's student section. I coach UCLA. I don't care about Michigan State students. I mean, who cares?
I'm going to say this as nice as I can because, again, trying to be nice, trying to be a bigger man, trying to learn how to grow and evolve as I grow into my middle-agedness. What a jackass. Really. Mick Cronin, seriously? First of all, was the question great? No. Second of all, is that the worst question you've ever gotten? I doubt it. You've been coaching basketball since Moses walked down the mountain with the 2 slabs. Sounds like a young reporter covering Michigan State, maybe for a fan site. We just wants to get a thought on the Michigan State crowd, that student section. It's not the worst question ever, is it? I mean, in the context of that moment when you've just gotten your tail kicked, do you want to answer that? No. You're frustrated. You've had a frustrating season. Your team is underachieving again. You've just had a rough go. You basically kicked the player off the court for a hard foul. You've been angry and agitated and annoyed all season. You don't like being in the Big Ten. And so you lose the game by a ton. You get a question that, yeah, isn't great. So you decide to take out all your frustration on some young reporter. You're a real man, dude. I'm really impressed with your manliness. You're a hell of a leader for that program. Because, leaders in tough times show leadership. They don't act like, once again, jackasses. And then you say to him, first of all, you started the antagonistic route by telling that kid it was the worst question you've ever heard. Congratulations. You basically disrespected him. He wasn't disrespecting you, Mick. He was asking you a question. No, he wasn't Mike Wallace. He was just asking you a question. You disrespected him. You opened the door for a contentious conversation, and then you have the cojones to turn him and go, you're raising your voice at me? Like, who the hell are you, his dad? He's of legal age. He might not be as old and bald and short as you, but you know what? He's of adult age. He was being respectful to you until you opened the door of disrespect. I've always had some kind of sideways respect for Mick Cronin because he's an old school guy, fundamentally sound. I always thought that maybe he was a little underrated as a coach back in the day at Cincinnati. I was even happy for him when he got to the Final Four at UCLA. That's a pressure cooker job even today. But since then, his teams have underachieved. But the way he has acted this year, this constant whining and just this constant grumpy dude all year long, and then you take it out on this young reporter. Yeah, I think I'm over Mick Cronin. And I'm thinking about myself at that age, because I'm guessing this guy's in his early 20s. That's why I couldn't be, this is why I could not be a journalist. Because if I ask a question, I'm not being disrespectful. Maybe I do ask you a dumb question or a question that maybe I could have done it better. And then you decide to turn on me like that. I'm going to say something back to you. I'm probably going to lose my job. Because I'm not going to let you talk to me like that. Not where I grew up, man. So Mick Cronin, yeah. Way to man up and show leadership and show your true self, because leadership should be in the toughest moments. And you showed zero. And you beat up on somebody you could beat up on. And I always measure the mark of men or people in general. How you treat people you can treat like crap. And Mick Cronin kind of showed me the mark of him as a man in that moment. I get you're frustrated, man. I get you lost. You got whooped. The season isn't going your way. But that reporter, it's not nothing is his fault. All you had to say to him was, when he asked about the student section, just say, look, man, right now I'm so focused on my team, what I got to do to make them better and make myself a better coach. I really wasn't paying attention to the Michigan State fan section. But, hey, I hear they're pretty good. Next question. That's all you had to do. All you had to do. You have to bully that young guy. I guess I don't like bullies. That's my problem. I've never been someone who's liked bullies. Nah. Never liked them. And that was a bully move. It just was. All right, 5 o'clock news, sponsored by Integrated Media. Speaking of weird, stupid situations, Kansas State's athletic director, Gene Taylor, talking about the firing of Jerome Tang. Again, Tang was fired. It's legit. Of performance, the team's terrible. It's gone sideways the last couple years under Tang since they made it to the Elite Eight. This year, they got one more win in the conference than I do in the Big 12. If you want to fire Tang because his team stunk, fine. But then Kansas State said, no, his comments after a loss last week kicked a clause in his contract of like embarrassment or whatever to the university, so we're not going to pay him his buyout, which to me is classless. So here's Gene Taylor, the athletic director, talking about the firing of Jerome Tang. Here you go.
Part of it was just where I was. I was out of town and couldn't put all this together, and had to get with the president in order to make sure we were all on the same page. And by that time, the game was, while he was playing the game is when I was making the decision and talking to the president.
Let me do this really quick. Let me try this. Ready? It took me a couple days. I got back and the president told me that we got to find a way not to pay this guy's buyout. Let's figure out something. Look at his contract. That's what happened. And Kansas State's kind of looking like a clown show with what they're trying to do to Jerome Tang. So, all right, 5 o'clock news sponsored by our buds at Integrated Media. We'll jump back in your Gamecock Notebook. We'll hear more from Paul Maneri about the victory over Gardner-Webb yesterday. That's coming up next here on the Postgame Show on the Game and the Game Network. cracking open the Gamecock Notebook here on the post-game show. For that, just again remind you that tonight, 8 o'clock pregame, 8:30 tip, the women taking on Alabama, 25th ranked team in the country in Tuscaloosa. 8 o'clock pregame, 8:30 tip on our sister station, B1067. Tonight here on 107.5 The Game and our affiliate, 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach, we have Carolina Calls with Lamont Periskin. That is 7 o'clock. All right, so last night, again, a 12-2 win over Gardner-Webb for South Carolina. Paul Maneri, a bullpen game for South Carolina. Here is Coach talking about one of the members of his pen and how well he did.
Where it was awesome. That's what we expected out of him when we recruited him. And I had a nice visit with him in my office earlier today, and he knew he was going to pitch tonight. And he's just such an amazingly great kid. I don't know if you know the story about it, but he actually was almost my next door neighbor in Baton Rouge. Did you ever hear that story, Jack? Did I tell it to you?
I think you told it.
We actually were putting our house up for sale because we were building a new house, and then his family was building a house right in the lot next door to my original house. So we didn't actually live in the houses right next to each other at all. But it's kind of a unique situation. But he when he came and visited us, he said to me, he goes, I grew up, idolizing you and watching your teams play and always dreamed of playing for you. I just didn't imagine it was going to be in garnet and black. Thought it would be in purple and gold. But he's where they want him. We wanted him. And I thought he would be a really good pitcher. And then he didn't get a chance to pitch at all in the fall because it wasn't anything serious. But one day when we were just getting ready to start inter-squad scrimmages, and he was throwing a bullpen on the game mound, and he just was doing something a little out of mechanically. He wasn't synced right, and it caused some pain. And he got really nervous about it, and we wanted to make sure that he was fine. So he ended up not pitching in any games, scrimmage games in the fall. And then when he came back in the spring, he just kind of wasn't himself. And then this morning when I talked to him, he told me, that he just feels great now. His lower half is synced up with his upper half, and everything feels good. And I knew he had more velocity than he was showing, and I think he was up to 94 tonight, if I'm not mistaken. And he threw some good sliders. He threw a couple good splitters, but his fastball command was really good. And
that's Paul Maneri talking about Josh Grigori, who came in through an inning and a third, a shutout ball, struck out two. So struck out two of the four hitters he faced coming out of the pen against Gardner-Webb. Again, totally 5 pitchers. Bradley Hodges started 2 2/3, 2 hits, 2 runs, both earned, a walk, or 2 walks and a strikeout. Hodges was a little hit or miss. Zach Russell popped in 2 1/3, give up 3 hits, struck out 3, no runs. Grigori again, inning and third, scoreless. Hudson Lee, 2/3 scoreless with a couple of strikeouts. Patrick Dudley, a clean inning to finish it off after 8. So the pitching, like it has been all year, bringing it last night for South Carolina. And look, everything last year was sideways. The pitching was among the worst in program history with some of the numbers you looked at. But this year so far, things have gone much better. Much better. And Grigori, who Coach Maneri was talking about through 2 years at Louisiana Monroe, came out of the bullpen, struck out over a hitter an inning. So he's a guy brought in with a specific role right now, which is the back end of the pen. High leverage spots. So South Carolina getting that win to improve to 4-1 on the season. And here's Coach Maneri, his overall thoughts on getting that W, the run rule win over Gardner-Webb last night.
As far as tonight goes, I thought it was a great game for us, obviously. I really challenged the guys last night after we won up in Spartanburg. It was a drive up there, an intense game, and then a drive back, so they get back to their apartments late at night, and then they got a quick turnaround to play a game. So, we acted pretty tired after the game on opening day, and so I challenged them to be ready to go. We gave some new guys, an opportunity, thinking that having some guys that haven't played that much or not at all, in fact, that they might give us some real energy out there, and that's exactly what happened. So it was a good win for us tonight. We really started swinging the bats well. I thought some guys coming out of the bullpen really pitched great. Specifically Gregoire, Dudley, Zach Russell threw great. Am I forgetting somebody? Did anybody else come out of the bullpen? That was it, I think, right? Oh, and Hudson Lee, he threw great too. So that was really a great thing for our team. When you get to play a lot of guys, and they're all recruited here for a reason, because they're good baseball players. They get an opportunity to play, and they show that, and it shows the depth that we have. It shows on the mound and with our position players. So it was a really good night for us. I'm really happy about the way they played tonight.
Yeah, I mean, you get 17 hits, over 20-some base runners. Talk about the 5 pitchers. You heard about Gregoire and Lee, among others, who threw well. The only pitcher who kind of, had some consistency issues was Hodges, who was the opener. So, nice win for South Carolina. Next up, Army in the Salute to Troops weekend on Friday. Saturday, Navy. Sunday, Air Force. There is a chance of some bad weather on the weekend. We'll see how that affects everything moving forward. Dawn Staley talking to the media. Dawn, real quick, this cut, closing on another SEC regular season title at South Carolina. Here's Dawn with her thoughts.
I don't have a feel, but I do have a feel, and I always act on what I feel, and I feel like, sometimes I feel like we've exhaled because, the LSU game was a big game for us as far as just another win, another tie-breaking win, right? And then we got Alabama on the road, who plays extremely well at home and always has, and we always had issues there. Just have to remind them what's at stake. You've done a pretty good job with, winning 11 games in our league thus far. You got to finish it. Just got to finish it, because there's nothing more gratifying than winning. Like, your hard work produces championships, because a lot of times it doesn't produce a championship, and we control our own destiny. So hopefully they understand that. If not, we'll continue to remind them.
I love that. If they don't understand, we'll continue to remind them. We'll make sure they know in case they forget. South Carolina right now 11-1 in the league. The only loss at Oklahoma. You got the tiebreaker over Vanderbilt, Texas, LSU. You beat Tennessee. Oklahoma, I mean, they're only 7-5 in the league. So you're sitting, again, like Dawn said, everything's right in front of you. You can handle your own business. You control your own destiny, all the cliches. You play Bama tonight, the number 25 ranked team in the country. Again, you can hear on our sister station B1067 starting at 8 o'clock. Then you get, after going to Tuscaloosa, where you're favored, you then get Ole Miss at home. Ole Miss number 17 in the country. And the Rebs on the season 8-4. So you get them at home. Then you get Missouri at home. A Missouri team who is 4-8 in the league in scuffling. Then you wrap it up with number 16 ranked Kentucky, and the Wildcats sitting at 7-6 in the league. So yeah, I mean, you play some ranked teams, but really you are going to be favored in all 3 of those games, and even though 2 of those 3 are on the road. Still, you'll be favored to handle your business. And right now you're sitting there pretty with a 2-game lead. And again, the teams that can catch you conceivably don't have the tiebreaker on you, Vanderbilt or Texas. So you're sitting in a nice spot if you're South Carolina's winning. All right, a drive around the SEC is coming up next here on the Postgame Show with Terry Ford. Appreciate you just hanging around with us up until 6 on the Game Network, and our YouTube channel at the Game TV Radio. We got some stuff going on the roads. Stop and go traffic in Lexington, I-26 westbound at the 378 exit, US 378, that's exit 110. And it's between that exit and exit 107 where you get to I-20. Yeah, it never happens there, does it? No. More stop and go traffic in Richland, I-20 westbound between exit 73 and 71. That's South Carolina 277 and the Main Street exit. I-26 eastbound, right after exit 129, a disabled vehicle, the left lane is blocked. Now to the accidents. Garner's Ferry Road near Atlas, Highway 17 near Waukesha, also Highway 707 at Prince Creek Parkway. Our drive around the SEC here on the Game and the Game Network and at the Game TV radio on YouTube. All right, so we'll start off with hoops. There's a lot of hooping in the SEC with the men last night. A great game. Arkansas, Alabama. When you get two high-level offensive teams who are both allergic to defense, you get this. 117-115, number 25 Bama takes out number 20 Arkansas in Tuscaloosa. And these teams were on fire. Bama shot 56% from the floor. Arkansas 49% from the floor. Alabama 34% from three, that's about average. Arkansas 50% of their threes. The difference in the game, Arkansas hit three more field goals than Bama, but the tied 27 to 34 from the line, while Arkansas only took 19 free throw attempts, hitting 16 though. It just was a basketball game, man. It was something else. LeBron Phelan led the way for Alabama, canning 35, including 10 of 13 from the line. But Darius Acuff, the phenomenal freshman, Acuff played 50 minutes in this game. 24. That's pretty much every minute. I just did the math on my phone. 49 points in 50 minutes, and it was efficient. Acuff was 16 of 27 from the floor, fantastic. 6 of 10 from three, fantastic. 11 of 12 from the line. Also, just for the heck of it, threw in 5 assists and 5 boards. Only 1 turnover. What a game by Darius Acuff in a losing cause. Dude can play. But Arkansas, they fall to the Tide 117-115. Again, just a hell of a basketball game last night in Tuscaloosa. Also in the SEC, Missouri edges Vanderbilt 81-80. That game was in Columbia, Missouri. Vandy's leaking oil a little bit. I mean, they were undefeated for a minute. But since they lost to Texas, that was their first L. They lost 3 in a row, then won 3 in a row, and now they're like going back and forth, win-loss, win-loss. So they have it's kind of come down a notch for Vanderbilt, but still having a heck of a year and will be in the NCAA tournament. Texas A&M at home, they've been scuffling lately too, but they got a hard-fought 80-77 win over Ole Miss, and Ole Miss is terrible, 3-10 in the league. Tennessee wiped out Oklahoma 89-66 in Knoxville. Vols are now 9-4, while Oklahoma falls to 3-10. I think Porter Moser gets another year, but would I be shocked if Moser was let go? No, I wouldn't be. Oklahoma just hasn't been very good. Defensively, especially, they've been a mess. And Porter Moser's calling card at Loyola of Chicago was defense. Mississippi State, they beat Auburn 91-85. That game was in Starkville, of course. That is South Carolina's next opponent, Mississippi State at CLA on Saturday. You can hear that game right here on 107.5 The Game and our affiliate in Myrtle Beach, 100.3 The Game. Been a weird year for Auburn, 5-8, 14-12. Look, I've said this, and I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just trying to be, objective and honest. Auburn under Stephen Pearl. Stephen Pearl would not have got this job if his last name was Ford. Stephen Pearl became the head coach because he sat on the bench next to his daddy. And Daddy unexpectedly left with the timing perfect to make sure his boy got the job. And look, I get Bruce Pearl. That's your kid. I understand. But with Auburn, really? I mean, you have a really good basketball program. Do you really want to put in the hands of an unproven, untested young coach? Auburn has now lost 5 straight after winning 4 in a row. And when they won 4 in a row, I'm like, well, maybe the whole thing's starting to get some tread on the tires. And maybe Stephen Pearl's better than I thought he would be in year 1. So I expected growing pains because Pearl, again, he's never been a head coach. And now you've lost 5 straight. You're sitting at 5-8 in the league, 14-12 on the year, with a good roster, by the way. It's a good roster. And by the way, Josh Hubbard went for 46, a school record 10 threes for Mississippi State. And trust me, Josh Hubbard has games where he couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat in the middle of the ocean. But when Josh Hubbard gets hot, he can go on a heater, and he did last night for Mississippi State. So that's what happened in the SEC last night. Real quick, if you look at league standings, Florida 11-2 with a 2-game lead over Bama and Arkansas and Tennessee. Then Vandy at 8-5. Also Missouri, A&M, Texas, and Kentucky 8-5 as well. Then you have Georgia at 6-7. Auburn, Mississippi State at 5-8. Oklahoma, Ole Miss 3-10. Then LSU and South Carolina at 2-11. All right, the women, they get at it tonight in the SEC. Obviously, we talked about South Carolina going to Alabama. Again, 8 o'clock pregame, 8:30 tip on our sister station, B1067. Also in the SEC, number 11, Oklahoma at number 24, Georgia. Texas A&M travels to number 21, Tennessee. Number 4, Texas will be at Arkansas. Mississippi State hosting Florida. Missouri at home taking on Auburn. And number 7, LSU travels to number 17, Ole Miss. That is the last game of the night. That's a 9 o'clock tilt on ESPN. And the women's standings in the SEC, South Carolina 11-1, Vandy 10-3, Texas 9-3, LSU, Ole Miss, and Tennessee 8-4, Oklahoma 7-5, Kentucky 7-6, Bama 6-6, Georgia 6-6, Mississippi State 5-7, Missouri 4-8, Florida A&M 3-9, Auburn 2-10, Arkansas 0-12 in the league. Drive around the SEC with Terry Ford here on the Game and the Game Network. All right, David Pollack on his podcast was talking about offensive line play and just how soft it has become.
Here's an epidemic. I don't see even those big guys that are enormous on that offensive line. I don't see them moving people, Greg.
Yeah.
The offensive line play is as soft as I've seen in college football. Like, I don't say that just as a defensive guy that doesn't like offensive linemen because I was a defensive lineman. I'm just saying, like, you got so many guys that you look at their numbers and you're like 6'7", 340. Seton from Colorado, who's going to LSU. I think the dude's a freak athlete. I think he's a first-round pick. I think he's an elite pass protector. Man, I would love for you to move somebody in the run game. Like, I watch his tape, and it drives me nuts. Like, get your hands on people. Have a little nasty. There's a lot less nasty than there used to be. All these kids do is play 7-on-7. So they're not worried about the run game anymore. And there's so much passing in high school now where it used to be I formation in high school at so many places. So everything has gone spread and smaller and speed and space. And so it makes sense to bring it in. But when you do that, Greg, and everything's speed and space and everything's 7-on-7, these offensive linemen ain't as tough as they used to be. They ain't as strong as they used to be. They ain't as nasty as they used to be. I want my linemen to not like people. Like, I don't want them to like people. I want them to be mean and nasty.
And I think Pollock was on Greg McElroy's podcast, but I'm with David Pollock on the last part there about offensive linemen. I want my offensive linemen nasty and mean and hating people. And you don't see that enough. We discussed this about the South Carolina offensive line during these last couple of years. I mean, heck, my whole time here, I feel like. We've talked about the South Carolina offensive line. Get a little nasty. Last year, there wasn't a lot of nasty except the Vanderbilt game in the first half before Lenoris got hurt. You saw some offensive linemen doing a little nasty, pushing some dudes down the field, a little road grating. But you don't see it much. you want a little edge. There's a difference between nasty and edge and being stupid and getting penalties. But I'll say sometimes a 15-yard penalty, because of what it could mean for the rest of the game, you'll take it at times because you go, okay, now my guys are in the right frame of mind. Again, you don't want a lot of those, and you're reckless and stupid. But like, I was at Clemson game 2 years ago. Torricelli Simpkins got a 15-yard personal foul for knocking a Clemson defender into the sideline, and you're like, okay. First of all, no more of those. But hey, all right, you got that edge to you. You're ready to play. You're letting the whole world know I'm here to hit you for 60 minutes. Get ready, dude. Here we go. Hope your insurance is paid up. You might need to go to urgent care for the bruises and the beating I'm going to give you. We just don't see it as much. So I hear what David Pollock's saying. I will come back to a little Jay versus the internet without Jay. Kind of look at the wagering side of the SEC tonight. That is next here on the postgame show. Terry Ford, appreciate you hanging out with us. We go till 6 here on The Game and The Game Network and at The Game TV Radio, our YouTube channel. All right, before we get to Jay versus the internet, a couple stories that are breaking. Alyssa Liu captures the first U.S. women's figure skating gold medal in 24 years. Liu, by reports, was phenomenal in the free skate. Far and away the best mark in the free skate, and she was what, top 3? Was she sitting in 3rd after the short program? So Liu takes the gold. First time since Sarah Hughes in 2002, by the way. Japan went silver, bronze. And then in 5th place, The U.S. also, Amber Glenn, who had a really rough go in the short program, nailed it. In the free skate to move herself up to 5th place. So good showing for the U.S. women in figure skating as Alyssa Liu nails the women's gold. If you missed this, the women beat Canada in overtime, a dramatic victory. The U.S. was down 1-0, tied the game with 2:04 remaining in the third on a Hillary Knight goal, and then Megan Keller scored the game winner on a 3-3, and they play 3-on-3 in overtime, which is fun to watch, man. Got the game winner in overtime. The U.S. comes back from the brink of a huge upset and beats Canada 2-1 to win the gold. So very cool for the U.S. So nice day for the women at the Olympics. All right, now we'll get to a little Jay versus the Internet. Take a look at what's going on in the SEC with the women tonight. A lot of games tonight, including South Carolina. We'll get to all that here. We need the music. We cannot do this without the music. It just wouldn't be the same. There we go. Who wants to be a millionaire? Concentration. Give me a lifeline. Phone a friend. I will start. We'll start in Tuscaloosa with South Carolina. Gamecocks are giving Bama 16.5. The way South Carolina's been playing, I think they beat Bama and they cover. I do. Alabama started the year 14-0. Since then, they've been 6-6. Lost 3 of their last 4. Lost to Oklahoma at home. They're desperate for a win. Part of me thinks you should take Alabama on the points, but South Carolina will get the W. I don't know. Gamecocks just been playing so well. I'll take South Carolina to cover the 16.5. Number 7, LSU at number 17, Ole Miss. Of course, LSU coming off that loss to South Carolina. LSU 11.5-point favorites in Oxford against a ranked Ole Miss team. I'll take Ole Miss to cover the 11, but LSU to win. Texas, number 4 team in the country, will go to winless Arkansas. Texas is giving Arkansas 32.5 points. 32.5 points. I think Texas covers the number. Yeah, I'm drunk. I'm not going to lie. Number 21, Tennessee at home, hosting Texas A&M, who's only 3-9 in the league. Tennessee giving A&M 21.5 in Knoxville. I'll take Tennessee to cover the number. Number 11, Oklahoma goes to number 24, Georgia tonight. Oklahoma is a 6.5-point favorite on the road. I think Oklahoma wins, but Georgia hangs around and they cover the number at home. That home dog, man. I know we're talking women's basketball, but still. A couple other games. Florida's at Mississippi State. Neither team has a winning record in the league. Mississippi State giving Florida 7.5 at home. Mississippi State 7.5. Yeah, what the heck. I'll take Mississippi State to cover at home. Why not? You have Florida. As I said, Florida and Mississippi State. Mississippi State will cover. Auburn goes to Missouri. Again, 2 teams scuffling at the bottom of the SEC. Missouri 4-8 in the league. Auburn 2-10. Missouri 5.5-point favorite. Sure, why not? I'll take Missouri to cover. I've watched 0 seconds of Missouri women's basketball this year, but I'll take Missouri to cover. There you go. There's a little drive around the SEC. Not drive around the SEC. We already did that. That's a little Jay versus the Internet. Here on the Game and the Game Network. And the Game TV radio. One last pop here. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver has informed the league's 30 general managers the NBA plans to make anti-tanking rule changes for next season. The league office's conversations with stakeholders from the Board of Governors, Competition Committee, and GMs have been intensifying dialogue about combating tanking. Multiple sources say concepts have been discussed like first-round draft picks can be protected only for top 4 or top 14 plus selections. Lottery odds freeze at the trade deadline or a later date. No longer allowing a team to pick in the top 4 in consecutive years or with consecutive bottom 3 finishes. Teams can't pick in the top 4 the year after making the conference finals. Lottery odds allocated based on 2-year records. Lottery extended to include all play-in teams, flatten odds for all lottery teams. Here's the thing. I understand why the NBA is looking at this the way it does, because, again, this hurts attendance. This hurts fan interest. You know, some fans can get behind tanking in a market if it's obvious. But if you're a fan, why are you going to pay all that money to go to an NBA game if you know your team's not trying to win, not putting the product on the court that is conducive for the best odds for them to get a W? If I'm a fan, I'm not dropping money to go watch my tanking team. Hell no. So I get what the NBA is trying to do here, and that's just one reason you want to stop the tanking. But here's the thing. Tanking done correctly works. It just does. But if you don't do it right, you'll just keep tanking and tanking and tanking. Teams want to get in the lottery. Again, the Philadelphia 76ers, with the process was right. Sam Hinkie had it right. He just couldn't draft for crap. But his process was right because most of your NBA all-stars or high-level NBA players were picked in the lottery, except a few exceptions like Nikola Jokic. Most of your guys are picked in the lottery. They end up becoming big-time players. So if you can't get them in free agency, your best bet is to try to get as many bites at the apple in the draft and the lottery to get those players. It's a sound way to build a team, and the NBA is just going to have to try to figure out how to figure out something. It's not going to be easy.